The sun was bright that afternoon. People were walking in and out of the beautiful glass doors of the Royal Orchid Hotel. Expensive cars were parked outside. Guests wore shiny clothes, carrying designer bags. Everything looked perfect and rich. Just then, a girl named Alia walked in. She looked out of place. Her clothes were very simple: a plain blue kurta, worn-out jeans, and old sneakers. Her hair was tied in a loose ponytail. She carried a small black backpack on one shoulder. Her face was calm but looked tired, as if she had not slept well. Alia slowly stepped inside the hotel lobby, looking around. The shiny marble floor, golden lights, and flower decorations were like a dream. It was her first time in such a place. The receptionist, a tall woman named Sarah, saw her and made a face. She leaned toward her coworker and whispered, "Who let this type of girl come inside?" The other staff members chuckled softly. A waiter passing by looked at Alia from top to bottom and raised his eyebrows. Alia walked to the front desk and said politely, "Excuse me, I'm looking for a room." Sarah didn't even smile. She looked at Alia's clothes and said coldly, "Do you have a reservation?" Alia shook her head gently. "No, I don't. I just arrived. I was hoping to get a room now." Sarah crossed her arms and replied, "Sorry, we don't have anything available. But I just checked online. It said there are rooms," Alia said, a little confused. Sarah rolled her eyes and replied, "We don't give rooms to people like you." Alia's smile faded. She looked down for a second but stayed calm. "Can I at least get a glass of water, please?" Sarah sighed and waved her hand. "Go ask the waiter." Alia turned around and quietly walked to a nearby waiter, a young man named Rehan. She asked politely again, "Can I have a glass of water, please?" Rehan didn't say a word. He walked to the counter, filled a glass with water, came back, and placed it on the table in front of her roughly, almost throwing it. A little water spilled. Alia looked at him for a moment, then softly said, "Thank you." She sat on a small sofa in the corner of the lobby and sipped the water. Guests nearby looked at her with judgmental eyes. A woman whispered to her husband, "Why is she even here? Looks like a beggar." Alia heard it, but she didn't say anything. She closed her eyes and tried to stay strong. One of the cleaners walked by and was told, "Keep an eye on her. We don't want anything stolen." Another waiter laughed and said loudly, "Maybe she got lost on her way to a shelter." The laughter echoed in Alia's ears, but she didn't respond. Instead, she slowly pulled out her phone from her backpack. It was an expensive phone, but dusty and scratched. She opened her contacts, scrolled for a name, and pressed call. After 2 rings, someone picked up. "Papa," she said in a low, calm voice, trying to control her emotions. "They're treating me badly again, just because I look different." There was silence on the other end. Then she added, "I know I said I'd be okay. I just wanted to try living like a normal person, but it's harder than I thought." She ended the call with a quiet, "I'll wait." Alia looked out the window. Her eyes didn't cry, but they were full of pain. She remembered how many times people judged her, not knowing anything about her. The hotel staff, still unaware, continued mocking her softly. The receptionist picked up the landline and whispered, "Should I call security? She might be a problem." The manager came out of his office and looked at Alia. "What's going on?" Sarah said, "Some poor girl came in. No booking, no ID, nothing. She's just sitting there." The manager glanced at Alia and said, "Well, ask her to leave. This is not a place for people like that." As he turned away, a black car stopped outside the hotel. It was big, shiny, and expensive. The driver stepped out and opened the back door. Alia stood up slowly. She looked at the car and smiled for the first time that day. Inside the hotel, no one noticed the card yet. They were too busy talking about her. Security should take her out before she causes a scene, someone said. Alia gently picked up her bag, walked back to the reception, and said in a soft but firm voice, "I ask you nicely. You chose to treat me badly. Now let's see what happens." Before Sarah could reply, the hotel doors opened wide, and two men in black suits walked in quickly. "Where is Miss Alia?" one of them asked loudly. Everyone in the hotel lobby froze. Alia looked directly at them and said with a smile, "I'm here." The two men in black suits walked into the hotel lobby with serious faces. They looked sharp and confident, like bodyguards or government agents. "Where is Miss Alia?" the taller man asked again, his voice clear and loud. The hotel staff looked confused. Rehan, the waiter who had thrown the glass of water, turned pale. Sarah, the receptionist, glanced at Alia with wide eyes. Alia raised her hand slightly and said, "I'm Alia." The two men rushed to her side and bowed their heads respectfully. "We are sorry we're late, miss. Traffic was heavy," the taller man said. Guests in the lobby turned their heads. All eyes were on Alia now. A few people whispered to each other, "Who is she? Why are these men calling her miss with so much respect?" The manager stepped forward, trying to act smart. "Excuse me, sir, what is going on?" "She walked in without a booking. She doesn't look like a guest." The bodyguard gave him a cold stare. "You're the manager?" "Yes," he said proudly. The guard pulled out a small card from his coat. "I work for Mr. Rafiq, and this is his daughter." Everyone froze. For a few seconds, the hotel lobby was silent. Sarah took a step back. Her hands began to shake. The other staff members stood quietly, shocked and embarrassed. Rehan dropped the tray he was holding. The manager stammered, "As she's Mr. Rafiq's daughter?" "Yes," the guard replied. "She came here alone today. Mr. Rafiq told us to make sure she was safe. Clearly, that didn't happen." Alia looked around the lobby. People who had laughed at her now looked down. Some tried to walk away slowly, pretending they hadn't done anything. The same guests who judged her simple clothes now looked guilty. Alia said softly, "I didn't want to come here with guards or rich clothes. I just wanted to see how people treat someone who looks ordinary." She paused, then added, "Now I know." The manager quickly tried to fix the situation. "Miss Alia, we're extremely sorry. We didn't know." Alia interrupted, "You didn't care to know." Her voice was soft, but powerful. The black car outside was still waiting. Another man stepped out. He was older, tall, and dressed in a dark gray suit. He looked important. He entered the lobby, and as soon as the guards saw him, they stepped aside. It was Mr. Rafiq himself, the owner of several five-star hotels across the country. As he entered, the staff stood straight like statues. The manager ran to him. "Sir, we are so sorry. We didn't recognize your daughter. There was a misunderstanding." Mr. Rafiq raised his hand, signaling him to stop talking. He looked directly at his daughter. "Alia, are you all right?" Alia nodded, but her eyes were full of emotion. "They treated me like I was nothing, Papa," she said quietly. Mr. Rafiq turned toward the staff. His face was calm, but his eyes were angry. He looked at Sarah first. "You refused her a room." Sarah couldn't speak. Her throat was dry. He looked at Rehan next. "You threw a glass at her." Rehan looked down, ashamed. Then he turned to the manager. "You judged someone by their clothes and wanted to throw her out." The manager opened his mouth to explain, but Mr. Rafiq raised his hand again. "Do you know what kind of people I hire in my hotels?" he asked. Everyone stood still. "I hire people who show respect, who serve with dignity, not people who laugh at guests or treat them like dirt." He paused, then said sharply, "All three of you, go home. You're no longer welcome in this hotel." Sarah gasped. "Sir, please, one chance." Alia stepped forward. "Papa, wait." Everyone looked at her. Mr. Rafiq turned to his daughter. "What is it, Alia?" Alia took a deep breath. Yes, they were wrong. They judged me. They hurt me. But if we fire them now, will they learn anything? The manager looked at her with surprise. Alia continued, let them stay. But make them go through a 7-day training. Let them clean floors, serve water, and understand how it feels to be treated badly. Her voice was calm, but full of meaning. Then, she said, they'll truly change. Mr. Rafik looked at her with pride. You are wiser than most people I know. He turned to the staff. You heard her. You stay, but under her training. One more mistake, and you're out for good. The staff nodded quickly, tears in their eyes. As Alia walked toward the elevator with her father, the same guests who had mocked her stepped aside with respect. From being a poor girl to being the owner's daughter, Alia had changed everything. Not with money, but with dignity. And this was only the beginning. As the elevator doors closed behind Alia and her father, silence filled the air. Inside the lift, Mr. Rafik looked at his daughter. His face was soft now, not angry, not surprised, just thoughtful. You didn't tell me you were going to do this, he said gently. Alia nodded. I didn't want to. I just wanted to feel normal, like everyone else. I wanted to walk into a place without being treated like a princess. Her voice trembled slightly, but she tried to smile. Mr. Rafik didn't say anything for a moment. He just looked at her, really looked. When they reached the top floor, a butler opened the penthouse door. Alia entered slowly and dropped her backpack on the couch. Then she stood near the giant glass window, watching the city lights. She remembered. Flashback begins. Alia was just 6 years old when her mother passed away. It was a rainy night. Her mother had caught a high fever, but insisted on staying up to read Alia a bedtime story. That was the last story she ever heard from her mother. After that day, everything changed. Mr. Rafik became busier. He loved Alia deeply, but he didn't know how to show it. He drowned himself in work, business meetings, international trips, long phone calls. Alia grew up in a giant house filled with luxury, but without warmth. The housemaids fed her, the driver dropped her at school, the cook packed her lunch, but nobody sat beside her during dinner. No one hugged her before bed. She had everything money could buy, but the one thing she wanted most was love. Years passed, and Alia became used to being alone. At school, she was known as the rich girl. Some classmates liked her for her last name. Others avoided her, thinking she was too proud. But Alia was never proud. She just didn't know how to connect. One day, in high school, she overheard 2 girls whispering in the hallway. Of course she got the award. Her dad probably bought it for her. Yeah, these rich kids don't have to try. They get everything. Those words hit her like a slap. That evening, she cried for the first time in years. She wasn't crying because they were wrong. She cried because they didn't even want to know if she was right. That night, Alia made a decision. One day, I'll step into the world without my name, without my money, and I'll see how people really treat others. Flashback ends. Alia blinked away the memory as a tear slipped down her cheek. She didn't want to cry. Not now. Mr. Rafik entered the room behind her. He had changed into his nightshirt. He held a cup of tea and offered it to her. She took it silently and sat on the sofa. You were very brave today, he said softly. No, Papa. I just couldn't take it anymore, she whispered. Mr. Rafik sighed. You're right. People like that shouldn't be working in a place that carries our name. Alia looked at him. But we can't change the whole world by firing people. He nodded. Then how do we fix it? Alia thought for a moment. We make them feel what others feel. That's the only way people change. There was silence again, but this time it was comfortable. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. It was a message from a school friend she hadn't spoken to in a while. Hey, I saw the hotel video online. Is that really you? You handled it like a queen. Alia's eyes widened. What is it? Her father asked. Someone recorded the scene in the hotel and posted it online, she said. They both checked the video together. It already had 50,000 views in 3 hours. The comments were full of shock, praise, and anger at the hotel staff. Mr. Rafik frowned. The media will come knocking tomorrow. Alia looked calm. Let them. Maybe this is what people need to see. Her father smiled. He had never been more proud. Meanwhile, in the hotel's basement staff room, Sarah sat on a bench, crying. I didn't know. I thought she was just some poor girl. The manager sat with his face in his hands. We judged her, without even asking her name. Rihan, the waiter, stared at the floor. She said thank you, even after I was rude. They had been given a second chance, but shame was a heavy weight on their hearts. Sarah wiped her tears. I want to change. I don't want to be that kind of person anymore. The manager nodded slowly. We begin training tomorrow. She'll be watching. And this time, we won't disappoint. Outside, the city lights blinked like tiny stars. And high above, in the penthouse, Alia sat with her father, finally feeling heard, finally feeling not alone. But deep in her heart, she knew. This story wasn't over yet. The next morning, the hotel staff arrived earlier than usual. They were not wearing their usual clean uniforms. Instead, they were given plain blue clothes, the kind worn by cleaning staff. The manager, Sarah the receptionist, and Rihan the waiter stood silently near the lobby wall. Their eyes were tired. Their faces were down. All three of them had been given one message that morning. Report for training. Alia will decide your tasks. For the first time, they were not bosses, not seniors, not employees with pride. They were students, and their teacher was a girl they had laughed at just yesterday. At exactly 9 a.m., Alia arrived at the hotel. This time, she wasn't alone. Her assistant, Nida, walked beside her with a clipboard. 2 hotel trainers followed behind. But Alia's look was still simple. No makeup, no expensive jewelry, just a plain white shirt and jeans. Her presence was calm, but powerful. The moment she entered, the same staff who once mocked her quickly stood straight. Alia didn't smile. She walked directly to them and stood silently for a moment. Then she said softly, "Do you know why you're here?" Rehan lowered his head. "Because we disrespected you." "No," Alia said. "Because you disrespected a guest. You didn't know who I was. And that's exactly the point." She walked over to Sarah. "You judged me by my clothes. You laughed at me behind the desk." Sarah's lips trembled. "I was wrong. I'm sorry." Alia didn't respond. She turned to Nida. "Please give them their tasks." Nida began reading from the clipboard. "Rehan, your duty is to serve water to every guest who enters today. You must say welcome and offer the water with both hands and a smile." Rehan nodded slowly. "Sarah, you will clean the glass doors every hour. You will also stand beside the entrance and open the door for guests, no matter how they look." Sarah swallowed her pride and nodded. "And Manager Sahib," Nida added, "you will be helping the kitchen staff, washing dishes, cleaning trays, assisting the cooks." The manager's eyes widened, but he said nothing. He knew he deserved it. Hours passed. Rehan stood at the door, offering glasses of water with a forced smile. Some guests ignored him. Some accepted, but a few even looked at him with the same eyes he once used for Alia. It stung. Sarah wiped the glass doors again and again. The wind made them dirty every few minutes. She didn't complain, but her back ached. Her feet hurt. Still, she kept wiping. Inside the kitchen, the manager struggled. The hot air, the heavy pots, the fast-moving staff. It was nothing like his air-conditioned office. He dropped 2 plates and burned his hand with hot water. No one said anything. They were all learning something that no training book could teach. Humility. Meanwhile, Alia sat in the hotel's control room with her assistant. They watched everything through the CCTV cameras. "Do you think this will work?" Nida asked. Alia didn't answer immediately. She zoomed in on the camera showing Sarah, who was now helping an old lady through the door. "She's already different," Alia said softly. Then they saw Rehan. He helped a child pick up a dropped toy and smiled genuinely. And the manager. He served tea to one of the hotel guards with respect. Alia smiled for the first time that day. That evening, Mr. Rafiq visited again. He entered the kitchen and saw his hotel manager washing dishes. The manager saw him and froze. "Sir," he said, ashamed. Mr. Rafiq didn't scold him. He just said one thing. "Now you know how hard real work is. Don't forget it." He turned and left. At the same time, Rehan came to Alia with a tray of water. "This is for you, Miss Alia," he said politely, offering it with both hands and a soft voice. Alia took the glass and nodded. Sarah walked over. "Miss Alia, thank you for not firing us. This training, it opened my eyes. I'm sorry for how I treated you," she added, "and for how I treat others." The manager joined them, wiping his hands with a towel. "I was proud. Too proud. I forgot the value of kindness." Alia looked at all three of them and said, "This isn't about me. It's about the next person who walks in, looking like they don't belong. Remember this pain when you see them." They all nodded with sincerity. Just then, the hotel door opened, and an old man walked in wearing torn slippers and a dirty kurta. Guests looked at him strangely, but Rehan was the first to step forward. He offered water and said, "Welcome, sir." Sarah smiled and opened the door wide. The manager personally guided the man to a seat in the cafe. Alia watched it all with peace in her heart. This was why she came. Not for revenge, but for change. The old man who entered the hotel looked tired and weak. His beard was long, and his clothes were dirty. His slippers were torn, and his hands shook slightly as he walked. Many guests in the lobby turned their heads. Some even covered their noses. A few whispered rude comments. But the hotel staff didn't move with hesitation this time. Rehan, the waiter, walked straight to the man with a warm smile. "Welcome, sir," he said kindly. "Would you like a glass of water?" The old man looked up, surprised. He nodded slowly. Sarah stepped forward and opened the door wider. "Please come in," she said softly. The hotel manager, once proud and distant, came personally to escort the man to a chair in the cafe. He called the chef and said, "Serve him something hot to eat. Don't charge him." Alia watched it all from the side. Her heart felt light. But then, a young rich-looking woman at the front desk frowned and said loudly, "What is he doing here? This is a 5-star hotel, not a shelter." The lobby went silent again. Sarah stood straight and walked over to the lady. Her voice was calm but firm. "Ma'am, every guest deserves respect, no matter what they wear." The woman rolled her eyes and walked away, angry. Alia walked toward the old man now. She sat beside him and said gently, "Are you okay, uncle?" He looked at her with tired eyes. "I haven't eaten in 2 days," he said. "I used to be a teacher. Life changed, and now I have nowhere to go." Alia's heart broke. She said to the manager, "Give him a room tonight, the best room, and don't ask for his ID." "But miss," the manager started. "No, but," she said, "just do it." The old man looked shocked. "Why are you helping me?" Alia smiled softly. "Because someone helped me when I needed it once, and I never forgot." Later that night, Alia sat in her room, thinking. Nida, her assistant, entered with her tablet. "The video from yesterday has crossed 2 million views," she said. Alia's eyes widened. "Still growing?" "Yes," Nida replied. "And now reporters want to talk to you." Everyone wants to know more about the kind mystery girl in the hotel. Alia sighed. I didn't do this for fame. I know, Nida said. But people are inspired. Your story is making others treat people better. That made Alia smile. Then Nida said something that changed the mood completely. But there's a problem. Alia looked up. What happened? Nida showed her a message on the screen. If this hotel is so kind, why didn't they help the street kids outside your building last week? My little brother slept hungry while your hotel hosted a fashion show. It was a harsh comment, but true. Alia's smile faded. She stood up slowly. Get the car ready, she said. At this hour? Nida asked. Yes, Alia said. We're going to the street. 30 minutes later, Alia stood on a dark footpath near the backside of the hotel. A group of poor children slept on old cloth sheets. Some were hugging each other to stay warm. A few were barefoot. A young girl no older than 6 was coughing softly in her sleep. Alia's heart shattered again. She turned to her guards. Bring food, now, and blankets. Nida started recording quietly. One by one, the kids woke up. Their faces lit up when they saw warm food and soft blankets. Some even thought they were dreaming. Alia didn't sit like a rich person. She sat on the ground with them. She fed a small boy with her own hands. She gave her shawl to a girl who was shivering. One child asked, Are you a queen? Alia smiled. No, just someone who cares. Back at the hotel, Mr. Rafiq received a call. It was from a senior government official. Rafiq Sahib, your daughter is doing something incredible. The whole city is talking. We want to support her mission. Mr. Rafiq looked out the window, proud but silent. The man continued, She's changing hearts. She's reminding us what humanity means. By the next morning, the video of Alia helping street kids had gone viral. News channels, newspapers, and social media were all saying one thing. Rich girl, simple heart. Alia teaches the world what respect means. At the hotel, new guests came in and asked, Is this the hotel where she works? The staff now stood straighter. They smiled more. They no longer judged anyone by clothes or background. The hotel had changed. But more than that, Alia had changed people's minds. And the journey was not over. The next day, the hotel lobby was busier than ever. News vans were parked outside. Guests from across the city had come to see the kind girl from the viral video. But Alia didn't care about the fame. She stayed away from cameras. Her mission was never about attention. It was about change. Inside the conference hall, a big meeting was being held. Mr. Rafiq, hotel directors, and staff sat around a large table. Alia entered quietly and stood beside her father. Everyone stood in respect, but she asked them to sit. I have a proposal, Alia said, and I hope you'll listen before saying no. The room fell silent. Alia took a deep breath. I want to start a training program, a respect-first policy. Every staff member, from top to bottom, must go through it. No one will be allowed to serve guests without passing this training. A senior director raised his eyebrows. Training for respect. Yes, Alia replied, because without it, we're just a building with expensive walls, not a real hotel. Another director whispered, She's right. Mr. Rafiq looked at everyone and said, Make it happen. Alia will lead this project. The room filled with quiet nods. That evening, Alia visited the cafe downstairs. It was full of guests. But something new had appeared. A large donation box with the sign, Help the Streets, Alia's mission for kindness. The idea was simple. Every guest could donate any amount. The hotel would match the donation and use it to feed street kids every weekend. People had already started putting in money. Even children came forward with small coins and shy smiles. Alia watched from the side, her eyes full of emotion. Suddenly, a reporter approached her. Miss Alia, What inspired you to do all this? She paused for a second, then replied, pain. I know how it feels to be judged, ignored, and left alone. I don't want others to feel the same. But just when things seemed perfect, something unexpected happened. A black luxury car stopped outside the hotel late at night. Two men in suits stepped out. One of them held a tablet. The other had a sharp, cold expression. They walked straight to the front desk and asked, "Is Mr. Rafik here?" The receptionist called Alia's father immediately. Within minutes, Mr. Rafik and Alia stood in the lobby, facing the two men. One of them introduced himself. "We are from the International Hotel Association. We've come to inspect your services." Mr. Rafik frowned. "This is short notice." The man nodded. "We received reports. One guest complained that your hotel allowed a homeless man to stay in a luxury room without ID or payment." Alia stepped forward, her voice calm but strong. "That was me. I gave him the room. He was hungry and sick." The man raised an eyebrow. "That's against international policy." Mr. Rafik looked tense, but Alia didn't back down. She said, "If kindness is against your policy, maybe the policy needs to change." The room went silent. The man looked at her for a long moment. Then he smiled slightly. "You're brave. Let's see how brave you are after tomorrow's full inspection." The next morning, a full team of inspectors arrived. They checked every corner of the hotel, from the kitchen to the penthouse. They questioned staff, read feedback, reviewed guest records, and watched CCTV footage. Everyone was nervous. Sarah and Rehan were especially worried. "What if they shut us down?" Rehan whispered. "Then we'll at least know we tried to be better people," Sarah replied quietly. By evening, the inspectors gathered in the lobby. Everyone stood around them. The leader of the team cleared his throat and said, "We came here expecting to find rule-breaking and disorder." He looked directly at Alia. "Instead, we found something else. Something rare." Everyone held their breath. "We found heart." He smiled. "This hotel may not follow every line of the rulebook, but it follows something more powerful: humanity." The room exploded in applause. "You've inspired us," the man continued. "We are starting a new global campaign, respect before rank, based on your hotel's example." Alia's eyes filled with tears, not because she won, but because the message was spreading. Real change had begun. That night, Mr. Rafik walked beside Alia in the hotel garden. "You've done something I couldn't do in 30 years, he said. Alia looked at him. "You trusted me. That was enough." Mr. Rafik put his arm around her. "I'm not just proud of you, Alia. I've learned from you." They both stood quietly under the stars. Inside the hotel, Sarah smiled as she helped a new guest. Rehan laughed with a child in the cafe. The manager trained 2 new workers, speaking with kindness. The hotel had changed. The people had changed. And one girl, once judged for her simple clothes, had become a symbol of hope. A full week had passed since Alia entered the hotel for the first time, alone, in simple clothes, with a small backpack. Now the same girl had transformed not just the hotel, but the hearts inside it. But her work wasn't done. Early that morning, Alia stood in the hotel's rooftop garden, quietly watching the sunrise. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from a popular journalist. "Your story is trending worldwide. People are calling you the girl who changed hospitality forever. Can we interview you today?" She didn't reply. Instead, she closed her eyes and took a deep breath. This wasn't about fame. This was about impact. Downstairs in the lobby, everything looked different. The staff no longer judged guests by their clothes or faces. Every visitor was treated with kindness. The respect first signs were now hanging on every wall. A new system had started, 1 free meal per day for anyone in need. Even the cafe had been renamed Alia's Corner, kindness served daily. One by one, people began to understand. This was more than just a hotel now. It was a movement. Later that afternoon, a large event was held in the hotel's main hall. Many guests, media, business leaders, and even government officers had gathered. A large screen showed clips from Alia's journey, her being insulted, her feeding children, her speaking to the staff, and her helping the old man. People wiped tears from their eyes as they watched. Mr. Rafiq stepped onto the stage. His voice was proud and emotional. "Today," he said, "we are not celebrating a hotel. We are celebrating humanity. And for that, we thank one person, my daughter, Alia." The crowd clapped loudly as Alia walked on stage. But her speech was short. "I didn't come here to be clapped for," she said softly. "I came here to remind us that respect is not a gift. It's a right." She paused. "Rich or poor, clean or dirty, young or old, every person who walks through those doors deserves to be treated like a human being." The room stood in silent respect. As the event ended, an unexpected thing happened. The old man who was once given a room walked slowly onto the stage. He was wearing clean clothes now and had a strong smile on his face. He held up a small envelope and said into the mic, "I used to be a teacher. I lost everything. But one night of kindness gave me back my life." He handed the envelope to Alia. "This is all I have. It's not money. It's my old medals from when I used to teach kids. I want you to keep them." Alia took the envelope with tears in her eyes. "No, sir. These belong to you. But I'll keep them safe in the hotel's new display room as a reminder of why we started this." Later, Alia walked alone to the same chair in the lobby where she had sat on day one. She remembered how Rehan had thrown a glass of water at her, how Sarah had mocked her, how the manager had ignored her. And now, Rehan brought her a glass of water with both hands and a genuine smile. Sarah sat beside her and said, "You've made me better. I'll never forget it." The manager walked up and added, "Thank you for not firing us. You could have. But instead, you helped us change." Alia smiled. That night, Alia sat with her father in the garden again. He asked her quietly, "Will you stay here? Help me run the hotel." Alia looked up at the stars. "No, Papa. My work here is done." "What will you do now?" "I'll go where people are still judged, still mistreated. I'll go to the next place that needs change." Mr. Rafiq placed his hand on hers. "Wherever you go, take this message with you." She nodded. "Always." The next morning, Alia packed her simple backpack. She wore the same plain shirt she had worn on day one. As she walked through the lobby one last time, every staff member stood up, not because she was the boss's daughter, but because she had earned their respect. Alia turned, smiled, and said, "Remember, it only takes one act of kindness to change everything." And with that, she walked out of the hotel, leaving behind not just a building, but a legacy.